Well, hello and welcome to all of our viewers here today. I'm Fiona Lang Sharp, IBCLC Director of Communications and MC at Gold Learning. Well, we are back with another one of our great speakers this year from our Gold Lactation Conference 2020. Today, I'm introducing to you Dr. Sharon Unger. Welcome, Sharon. It's great to have you here today.
It is such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Well, I'm very excited about the topic that you're going to be speaking to. I've actually had a chance to work a little bit with you today, and we've had a great time talking about the topic and how it might relate to our delegates as well, as I was sharing some of the things that, I've done in the community in the past as well. So I can't wait to dive into the topic. But before we get started, I do want to remind everyone who's listening in today, of course, that you can register for this conference right now. Early bird is still in effect, and the keynote is on March 30th, which means that's the very beginning of our conference. For our keynote on the March 30th, you're invited to join us. It is free and open access to everyone, and it will be with the delightful Brinna Sampe. Well, let's dive in here to our conversation with Sharon and find out a little bit more where she is in the world. So perhaps, Sharon, you could tell me a little bit where you are and what does it look like? I know you said to me just now it's getting dark outside, right?
Right. I am in Toronto, Canada, and it is still feels like winter here,
Yeah.
actually.
Still cold out there. Yeah. Now,
Absolutely.
yeah, and if anyone's thinking about where that might be in Canada, I'm actually Sharon is sort of more east, and I'm definitely more west. So we don't live very close to each other, Sharon, do we? But we are bound by community in what we do in our work as well, right across the country. So that's awesome. So, Sharon, I know you're working as a neonatologist, and in fact, I was going to say, are you still working in that position right now at the Sinai Health System?
Yes, I've been here more than 20 years. I hate
Wow.
to say I've been a neonatologist for a long time, so I have seen a lot of exciting changes in the lactation world over that amount of time.
I bet you have. Yeah, and that was something that I really wanted to talk to you a little bit about. So, tell me a little bit about what your job entails. Like, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis as a neonatologist?
Right. So I work in a tertiary care neonatal unit. So I take care of some of our smallest, most vulnerable babies,
Right.
and that's part of my portfolio. And then the other part is that I'm a medical director for the provincial milk bank that is here, and
Ah.
it's sort of been an exciting development, I think, because when I started out as a new young neonatologist, we
Mhm.
did know that mother's milk was what was best for every baby, and really particularly important for the sick baby,
Mm.
so protective. But what we used to do was we would see a mother at her baby's bedside each morning, and we would say, "Do you have any milk yet? Do you have any milk yet? Do you have any milk yet?" And she would have the entire healthcare team staring at her to say,
Mm.
"Where's your milk? We're waiting for your milk. We're waiting for your milk to feed your baby." And if she would say, "I don't have any yet. My sister has milk. Can I bring some in?" We would say, "Absolutely not." Or we would say,
Mhm.
"La la 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 la. We don't want to know. We're just waiting for your milk." Um,
Right.
so it was the first decade of my career to try and support these moms, and then it's been the second decade of my career as the medical director for the Human Milk Bank here. So things really have evolved quite nicely, and I think the next decade is going to be even more exciting, to tell you the truth.
Ah, well, it's funny. We are just talking about the next decade today, because of course, here we are into a new decade. But let's just go back a bit. So that first 10 years of your career, I mean, I was in practice at that time as well. Actually, I was working in Toronto, and I had babies, and I had a baby in the NICU. I was one of those
Oh,
moms, Sharon.
oh
Um,
wow, this is new. Okay.
So yeah, I remember that so clearly, and but I also remember saying the same thing to other moms, ironically, and it didn't really shift until I had my own and had one in the NICU. But yeah, it was a really interesting time. I think we were on the cuff of knowing that it was important. We wanted to do it, but there wasn't really the support and help to really transition into that. And of course, milk banks had really they had shut down. That's really what happened in Canada. We
Right.
did have several right across Canada here, and perhaps our audience listening can relate to that as well. That there were more, and again, we're sort of on the curve of seeing more pop up. Is that right, Sharon?
Yes, absolutely. We did have many milk banks in Canada, and then when HIV came in, so that is
That's
more
right.
time ago than that. That was in
Yeah.
1985 that there was a recognition that HIV could be spread in human milk. Then
Hmm.
in Canada, only one milk bank survived that era. And so
Wow.
it really is just now that milk banking is very much coming back online.
And thank goodness. So,
Right.
yeah, and appreciative of the fact that we live in Canada and it is increasing here. But I know for many countries, they're still struggling and they're still looking. But there's many of our delegates I know that are looking forward to making sure that they have milk banks in their areas as well. So we're
Mhm.
super blessed here, but we know that there's still many that want to learn about everything that there is, in this area. Now, I know your focus area is talking about, so the presentation title is the use of human milk in the high risk neonate. So that's your focus topic. Tell me a little bit about, tell me why that this was
Okay.
important to you to talk about this topic.
Well, I guess that's where we started when we wanted to bring a milk bank back to the province that I'm in.
Hmm.
We had to work with Health Canada. We work in a socialized medicine system. So we had to begin by a research platform, really. And we had to
Right.
start at the beginning and we had to prove the medical benefits. So we did start with the most vulnerable babies. We were able to do the research and show the benefits and show where there is real science behind it. And I think this is just the beginning. And
Sure.
what I'm going to present in my talk is the research evidence that we have to date, where we are right now. But I'll give a
Hmm.
little bit about what I expect might be some of the future directions, because I think, as I say, the next decade is going to be exciting. There's going to be a lot more research, but right now there's a lot more questions that we have, but there will be a lot of research going on into other populations and how to use donor milk. So that's to come. But what I'm going to begin my talk with is what we already do know.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, and I think that's important because, even though that this topic has evolved, so this is something that some places, are fortunate enough to have facilities where they accept and have human donor milk readily available, particularly, of course, for our most fragile neonates. And even on some of our regular wards with some of our preterm infants that are not doing as well, or mom has needed some extra support. So we are seeing some hospitals integrating some human donor milk in there as well, which is really great. I'm really excited to hear what you said about the future. And so can you tell me, like, what is it that that sort of triggers you into thinking about what you're seeing come down in research? Like, tell me, I'm excited now to hear what what is
Well,
going on.
I think there's many aspects, just starting right with the laboratory. We
Hmm.
know that human milk that comes from donor milk banks is quite processed in order to ensure its safety. But the
Right.
processing techniques that we use right now come
Hmm.
from about 1865, when Louis Pasteur presented
Ah,
pasteurization for human milk. So
okay.
our techniques are pretty old. And I
Ah,
think there's going to be a lot more work on
right.
processing human milk. There's going to be a lot more work on all of the bioactive components that are
Right.
so important in human milk and how to preserve those. I think that, there's going to be more work about even things like what kind of containers are
Hmm.
best for
Right.
human donor milk. There's
Yeah.
going to be more work on about how to feed it, which populations, work about the ethics behind human milk, about cultural diversity within human milk distribution. So, right from the basic science bench right out into the community, we have questions and we have lots of research to be done.
Wow, I never, it
Yeah.
just blew my mind there a little bit, a whole long list of things
Right.
that I'm going to have to think about. But, that just even your first statement about the pasteurization, I actually had no idea. I didn't know that it was that old in how we pasteurize. And so that is actually very, very interesting. And I'm going to ask people to comment below and tell us what they knew about pasteurization. Did you know? That pasteurization was that old. So this is very interesting to learn these things from you. So I can't wait actually to hear some more of that scoop. But it's great to hear that there seems to be lots of things that are moving forward. And I'm sure that we'll get to see those, in the research and in the science, like you said, in the laboratory too, just some really great things that have changed in the last 10 years that are going to take us right into this new decade as well. So that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, my pleasure. And just a little point that sometimes things that are old are tried and true. So they
Right.
they might be they
I
might not we might not
right?
find better, but good to ask
You
the
never
question.
know.
You
Yeah,
never know.
I think so. I think that when thing you're absolutely right because we do see that right across the perinatal field, and in lactation that but I think that with the knowledge that we have today and with people doing further research than I think more research than we've ever seen before, you're absolutely right. It's nice to look at these things and make sure that we are doing the best for our families.
And in fact, maybe to intrigue you a little, I am
Mm.
going to start out my talk by telling you the lessons that I learned from both of my grandmothers, because I went back to those lessons after I became a mother myself and after I became a neonatologist. And I thought, you know what? The people who taught me the most might just have been my grandmothers.
Well, that's
So,
absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to hear more of the inside scoop about you, Sharon, and your grandmothers, and looking back in history and what you have learned from them. Well, thank you so much, Sharon. It's been
oh,
great sitting down with you. I know that we're going to be learning lots. I also know that we'll have lots of delegates that work in this area as well, which is fabulous. And they'll be right alongside us, engaging in this conversation as well. So I can't wait until you're online with us. So thanks for being with us here today.
oh, thank you so much.
And just to let everybody know, so Dr. Sharon Unger will be here with us on Tuesday, the 14th of April. Now, that will be for most of you, okay? So make sure that you check online. You can go to the website right now at goldlactation.com. You can check the full schedule and print it out. It will tell you, it'll actually ask you where you are in the world, and so you'll get an accurate time slot for that as well. But the benefit of that is that when you come live, you can interact with Sharon, and I know she's going to love that. We were talking about, having that really great real-time response. So you'll have an opportunity to ask further questions about what Sharon's doing, some of the research that's coming out, and of course, some of the lessons that she's learned as well along the way. Well, thank you once again to Dr. Sharon Unger for being with us here today, and of course to all of you, our listening audience. Bye-bye for now, everyone.
Bye, everyone.